Tonight, the nation pauses to remember the day when terror struck our country. Ceremonies across the nation being held to honor the 13th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. We will have a look at the somber services across our region as family, friends, survivors, and first responders join together to see that the memories of the fallen live on.
If you threaten America, you will find no safe haven.
And on the eve of 9/11, President Obama lays out his strategy to combat ISIL, promising to dismantle the group by launching airstrikes and working with Iraqi security forces. Is war the new normal for America 13 years later? And what will the anti-terror campaign look like for generations to come? Plus, there is more digging being done in the Ray Rice case. A former FBI director is taking a closer look at the NFL's handling of the case. This, as TMZ reports, NFL officials did see the shocking video of Rice knocking his wife unconscious in that Atlantic City elevator. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We begin this evening with somber services being held across the region and the nation as we pause here to remember the thousands of lives lost 13 years ago to the day. We all know what happened when evil struck that beautiful September morning here, and it's a day that for anyone who was alive, they'll never forget, and for so many families scarred by it, it is a wound that is never healed. Samantha Liebman, she reports in the emotional ceremonies being held this morning at Ground Zero, and the stories of those who lost loved ones on that fateful day, which they say is a day that they never will or can forget.
I miss you so much. Daddy, you're my hero.
The solemn roll call of names took place for a 13th time this 9/11, the bell ringing. The 6 moments of silence for each plane and when each tower of the World Trade Center fell. And every year, the painful memories return for Ralph and Betty Mayers, who come from Florida to honor their son, Noel.
It's like visiting someone's gravesite, or it's very special to us.
It's not so much the ceremony, it's showing the respect from what happened. And like you can see, it's not as much interest anymore. People are forgetting already.
Kayla Grady never had anything to remember. She was 2 when her father died. Christopher Michael Grady was a broker at Cantor Fitzgerald when he was killed. This is the first 9/11 ceremony she and her mother have attended.
I didn't know him too well. I was too young to remember, but it's kind of like I want to be here and say it for the rest of the families and stuff like that for the people my age who didn't really know them either.
While the ceremony was the same as in past years, there was also the cloud of a new terror threat overseas from militant group ISIS. Security this year stepped up, but NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton says they're always prepared.
For us, it's an everyday situation, but the increased concern about ISIS is now adding to the work that we're doing.
A challenge for police, the barriers around the Memorial Plaza are now down, although it was a welcome change for families.
It's a different vicinity, different vibe, more peaceful than before.
Also new this year, the 9/11 Museum is now open, and the unidentified remains of victims are now in a repository beneath, a comfort to Marion Owens, who lost her firefighter brother, Kenneth Phelan.
We have no other place to really go, so this is his final resting place. We never got anything back.
Now, even before the remains were placed here, this site was considered sacred ground. Now tonight, the Memorial Plaza, which is usually closed on this day, will be open to the general public so many more people can pay their respects. At the World Trade Center, Samantha Liebman reporting for RFL.
Thank you, Samantha. Now, remembrance ceremonies aren't just being held in our nation's capital, as well as Lower Manhattan and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, but also across other parts of our region as well, where the stories of heroes and survivors are endless. Today, a service was held in Haverstraw honoring the lives of the 79 Rockland County residents who died in the attacks. The ceremony also paid tribute to one person killed in the Trade Center attack in 1993. Allison Crowther lost her son Wells on 9/11, and he is known as the man in the red bandana. He was an investment banker at the Trade Center, and he lost his life after rescuing the lives of 12 others that fateful day. Authorities say he wore a red bandana over his nose and mouth to fight the smoke while saving lives.
He used his red bandana as his only protection, and his knowledge and his wit to face the horrors that day and save many lives.
In the morning sunrise, when all the world is new, just look for me and love me, as you know I loved you.
On Long Island in Nassau County, another hero was remembered. His name, George Howard. Karen Uckerman says that Howard saved her husband's life.
My husband was having a cup of coffee, just standing there nonchalantly, and George Howard told him, "You need to move now," and many others. And he died, George Howard, but these other people were saved because of his heroism.
And for countless others whose loved ones did not survive, they say it feels like evil struck just yesterday, and each year the pain they feel, it's as strong as ever.
He's in my thoughts every day, and it doesn't seem like 13 years. It's so cliche, but it feels so much closer.
I worked at 2 World Trade Center on 9/11, and my company lost 176 people. So it'll always be with us. Whoever, I think in the whole Northeast, the people of the Northeast and the New York metropolitan area, we have a certain hole in our hearts that will never go away.
It kind of creeps up on you, and it brings you right back to the day. And it's tragic. Those of us who are here are fortunate to be alive, but so many of us have lost so many ones that we love. And even those of us who have not lost an immediate family member, we have so many friends who have.
In addition to services around our region, and you saw some there from Rockland to New Jersey to Long Island and obviously in Lower Manhattan, there were also services held in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Today that they remembered, and of course that's where United Airlines Flight 93 went down in a field that after passengers and crew members rebelled against 4 hijackers. And today former House Speaker Denny Hastert said the Capitol may not have remained standing 13 years ago if it were not for that amazing group's bravery. And in Washington, President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama observed a moment of silence under partly cloudy skies on the south lawn of the White House. And from the Pentagon, the president spoke of a unified America, one where terror and acts of evil will not prevent us from prevailing.
We carry on because as Americans, we do not give in to fear. Ever. 13 years after small and hateful minds conspired to break us, America stands tall and America stands proud. And guided by the values that sustain us, we will only grow stronger.
You know, right there we heard the president talk of a unified America. Maybe for some time today we were unified, but I was watching the ceremonies or the remembrances this morning from Lower Manhattan, and it brought me back to 13 years ago, and there was the faces that we saw from the loved ones who read those names. And then at the conclusion of reading the long list of names, as you'll see right here, they also remembered their loved ones. And it was a cross-section of America. It was old, it was young, it was all different races, all different religions, ethnicities. You had people from every different walk of life, and in many ways it's what makes America and New York so great here, but they are all tied here with a common bond, and that was grief, obviously. And it reminded me, and I'm sure many of you at home as well, of that immediate aftermath after 9/11. We had a United Nations where we didn't see the petty political differences that dominate so much of our daily life here. And for a moment, we were reminded of what we were in our worst but our best moments, and hopefully where, when it really matters, we as a country can come back again when it's called upon. And I think with all the challenges ahead of us, we were reminded of those moments of grace here, and again, reminded by those amazing families that we heard, as we've heard every year for the past 13 years. Okay. When we come back, though, we'll talk about what today also reminded us of. It was the day after the president delivered a message at 9 p.m. of last night here that We are again a nation at war, delivering a strategy on how we will combat yet again another terror threat, this time ISIL, saying the U.S. would heighten airstrikes not only across Iraq but into Syria as well. What will the threat of terror look like, not just in the immediate aftermath, but for this generation to come? What is the new normal for America? We'll get into that conversation with our panel after this.